Hi everyone, and welcome back to ChompCast.
As always, I'm Jordan Ricco.
I'm Grace Peters.
I'm Adam Krasno.
And I'm Wuerffel.
And we have a very exciting episode for you. And I know that we say it every single time, but I'm telling you, this one's special.
It's really awesome.
And we're super excited to also be back.
Season 3.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're back for season 3, guys. Can't get rid of us yet. But super excited for the season ahead. Super excited to be back with you guys.
And we have a much bigger team now, so that's been really fun.
Yeah, it's been great working with everybody, and we're just really diving into the pod. It's great.
We've developed a lot of episodes for this upcoming season, so we're really excited.
It's literally every single episode. Fire, banger, good job. So super excited for you guys to see it.
The best is to come. There's no question about it.
100%. So, to lead off this incredible season, Adam, you want to take it away with who we have today?
With us today, we have Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Danny Wuerffel, who also led us to the 1996 National Championship, the first in Florida Gator football history.
Wow.
And not only is he incredibly accomplished in his own right as a football player, but post his NFL career, he also really dove into philanthropy. He is the head of Desire Street Ministries, which is a nonprofit working mainly in the Louisiana community after the devastation of Katrina. He really dove into his community back home and puts a lot of work into giving back and building a strong community. And he is also the head of the Wuerffel Trophy, which is presented to a college football player each year who really exemplifies that philanthropic mindset and chooses to give back to their communities as a football player.
Yeah, we're getting into everything this episode, his football career, his time at UF, what made him kind of stand out and really go for the NFL, go for these big dreams, and how you guys can too. And also talk a little bit about, of course, the Wuerffel Foundation and Desire Street Ministries. And so we're super excited for you guys to hear it.
Yeah. So with that, let's jump in.
Let's tune in.
So thank you so much for being here with us today. We are just so excited to speak with you. So thank you for taking your time. So we're going to take it back to your early life, day one. So growing up in a military family, moving around often, how do you feel that shaped your outlook and influence in the way that you approach new challenges?
Man, I think it was a really unique experience. There's a lot of challenges where every time you make friends, you're leaving and moving and having to start over. I think a couple things that I've taken from that as really positive parts of my life are, one, when you live in different parts of the world, different parts of the country, you recognize that there are a lot of different ways that people do things. People think differently, people live differently. And a lot of times we assume that different is usually wrong. And, we live in a pretty polarized world right now. And anything that's different usually than what we're used to, we immediately think is wrong. And I think growing up in the environments I did, I just learned that different can be different. And that's okay. And everybody, we lived in Spain and people took breaks in the afternoon and slept and then went back to work and worked late and had late dinners. And that, that's different. The other thing that I found was just being an athlete really helped me transition when I would move to a new place. When you're on a team, you come in, you start playing, it made it a little bit easier to make and meet friends in all the new cities. So I think just really appreciating what sports did for me and learning that a lot of people do things differently.
Awesome. It's incredible.
Well, kind of transitioning to all the experiences that you had, living in Spain and, just kind of early childhood as well. What do you think your core values or role models that, may have affected you during your childhood? How do you think they guided you into the person that you are today? And, what do you think those effects really look like?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to recognize all the different people in my life that were mentors, role models, parents, teachers, coaches, youth pastors, all the different things. I think some of the core things that I think stuck with me early were one, this idea of caring for other people. This idea your life is not about you. We would be on Air Force bases all over the world at Christmas time, and there'd be a lot of people there that had no family. They were just stationed there alone. And every Christmas Eve, we'd go to church, and then we'd have a party at our house and just invite anybody that didn't have anywhere to go. And just some of my favorite memories were how appreciative people were that we were caring for them. And so just the idea of caring for people, somewhere along the line, I got this value of winning, of just competing, just loving to compete. I think a lot of that comes from my dad. He was very, very athletic and competitive. And then kind of with that though, and sometimes hard to balance is the idea of being humble. Like don't brag, do your best, but be humble. And there's some tension there when you want to kick butt and be humble at the same time. And so I think this idea of helping people, winning, being humble, and for me, all those were sort of wrapped up and sort of part of the faith kind of foundation of my life.
I really like a lot of those qualities that you touched on, and I feel like many of them I learned from playing youth sports. I think it's such an amazing opportunity to be on a team and work with a team and experience challenges in that environment. So with that, I guess a little transition to, among so many other things, you had such a successful athletic career. So can you tell us a little bit about how you started getting into that, when you first played on your first few teams, and when you first found a love for sports in general?
Yeah, I think my mom said the first word I said was ball. And whether it was rolling it or throwing it or catching it or kicking it, kind of the first experiences I had with team sports would be t-ball and soccer. And then living in Spain, soccer became super important. So I did that. And then I loved to play like tennis and racquetball, and then got into basketball later. Loved throwing the football, but kind of didn't have a chance to even play football till I was in seventh grade. And so that was my first experience of playing football, and loved that. I was in Colorado and played for our middle school team up there, the Challenger Cheetahs. It was Challenger. I can't remember our mascot, but it was just fantastic to play all the different sports. In ninth grade, I moved to Florida, and I kind of thought I was a little bit better of a basketball player, so I kind of dreamed of getting a scholarship and guessed it might be in basketball. But kind of as I grew through high school, just, there's more 6'2" quarterbacks than 6'2" power forwards in college. And I just, developed better as a quarterback. But I loved all sports. I still do. And just, it's been a big part of my mind, my psychology, and all kind of who I am.
Yeah, and I'd say to this point in many of our lives, the biggest decision we've had to make was being what college we were going to go to. So can you take us into your mind, what happened throughout your recruitment and what led to your decision to become a Florida Gator?
Yeah. Well, I've got three kids that are kind of in somewhere in that process now as well, of either having chosen or choosing now or will in a couple years. And it's tough choices as an athlete. I think you're kind of trying to figure out where you might have the best chance to fit in, as well as what's the best school. I was recruited by a lot of schools. I took 3 visits at the end. I took one to Alabama and loved it. Gene Stallings was the coach, and he's a great man and a great leader. I took a second visit to Florida State and also really liked that. My older sister was at Florida State. Coach Bowden, I had a lot of respect for a lot of reasons, and they were a great football team. My third visit was to Florida, and of course fell in love with Florida too. And Coach Spurrier was so amazing. And I think at the end for me, it came down to 2 things. One, as a quarterback, the chance to play for Coach Spurrier was just too good to pass up. And secondly, I asked myself, if I weren't playing football, which school would I go to? And without question, the University of Florida, and in so many different ways, was, I think, a better academic institution and experience. And so that was sort of the icing on the cake. Picked Florida, and obviously I'm super grateful I did.
That's awesome. And I feel like just this week alone, winning the national championship and everything that we've experienced, I think it just reiterates, like you said, if you weren't playing athletics, this is still a great school to go to, educational. I mean, we're in an everything school, so
Yes.
definitely awesome. And I feel like this week has really just reiterated that. So thank you for touching on that. Continuing our love for the Gators, your time as a Gator was filled with lots of celebration and success, with the team winning 4 straight SEC championships from the 1993 to 1996 seasons. I mean, that's incredible. I can't even imagine what Gainesville was like back then. I guess we got a taste of it this week, but I can't even imagine. So what are some of your fondest memories from wearing that Gator logo, from experiencing those winning moments?
Before I jump in, my oldest son is at Florida, and he was there in the O-Dome for the game and went on to University Avenue. And he actually said to me, he said, "Dad, this was the greatest moment of my college career. And I think I finally understand what it was like for you." And then he said, "Dad, you were Walter Clayton. I get it now," which is kind of funny. Um, yeah, man, I tell you, when I think of my 4 years there playing, it really feels a little bit like a dream. Like, when you mentioned four SEC titles, like if I hadn't lived it, I'd be like, nah, that couldn't have happened. To play for two national titles, to win the different awards that I won, it really feels like a dream. And one day I'm afraid I'm going to wake up and it didn't happen because it was so magical. It wasn't without its challenges. There were plenty of challenges along the way too. But just when you think of highlights, a couple things come to my mind. There's a few moments on the field that stand out. That first, I was a freshman. I went in as a backup against Kentucky. Our starter had thrown four interceptions. I went in and threw three interceptions. And somehow I was still in the game on the last drive, and I throw the winning touchdown to Chris Doring. And so that was kind of like my first significant moment. And I'd say, conversely, almost like bookends on a bookshelf, the winning the national title in my last game against our rival Florida State, who we'd lost to, is just so unbelievable. And so I think that those two things on the field were absolutely amazing. When I think of off the field, there's just weird moments with your teammates that you just something about a team sport is so special. I remember one morning we had to get up in an early workout. We went and ran, and not a lot of us had cars, but James Bates, whom had a car, and he's like, "Hey, anybody want to ride back?" So everybody wanted to ride. So like in this little car that probably fit five people, we had about eight or nine people hanging out the trunk. But instead of driving back to the locker room, he started driving through campus, and he started blaring the theme song from Annie. The sun will come out tomorrow. And like everybody was so embarrassed, and he was singing, and like just silly moments like that you remember. And just the friendships, still am close with a lot of people. And those things stand out a lot.
Yeah, and we love to hear, all the memories and the reflections from winning that championship. But when we specifically talk about that 96-97 season, which was for the record books, from winning the Heisman Trophy and also the individual accomplishment of winning the fourth straight SEC championship and the national championship all together for yourself, but as a team, what moments from that year stood out to you most when you look back at it? I really love that story about you talking about in the car with James Bates, but anything else?
From our camaraderie for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. A couple things off the field that I think contributed. So like we talk about a difference between when I played. So, when we played, we only got so many Gatorades a week. And after that, you had to drink water. And now they can like buy Gatorade. They're getting all this NIL. But we had these coins. So these coins to get Gatorade, you'd put them in a machine, and that's how you got your Gatorade for the week, were pretty valuable. And so we actually developed a game in the locker room. We called it like stickball, where you wad up a bunch of tape into what was like a ball, and then you play like baseball. And you'd have these different competitions, and if you win, you'd bet your Gatorade money. And wasn't any good at the game and didn't particularly like it, but I realized how much camaraderie it would bring to the team. So I kind of organized the whole stickball tournament, and it was just yet another fun aspect. I think kind of when I think about that season, there's a couple things that come together. There was this middle run where we put like 50 points on several teams in a row. I mean, it was just really an unbelievable run in the middle. The game against Tennessee was supposed to be like the biggest game of the century, and it was me against Peyton Manning, and whoever win was going to win the Heisman, and it was pouring rain, and somehow we beat them pretty good, and that was a special moment. But to me, it all kind of comes down to the last month where we're undefeated. We're number one. We go into Florida State, and we just get beat in a really difficult way. I was sacked so many times, but knocked down way more. They had a lot of late hits, some that weren't called. My dad counted 32 hits in one game. And for all intents and purposes, at that point, if you lose, now you just still get in the playoffs. But back then, if you lost then, you were kind of out of it. You had to be the first or second ranked team to have a chance, and we were one and dropped to like five or six. So, but what happened was pretty remarkable. Nebraska was undefeated and they lost the next week. Alabama was undefeated. We beat them the next week. You had Arizona State was undefeated and they lost to Ohio State in a bowl game. And then the only undefeated team left was Florida State, and we got a chance to play against them in a rematch that really is like out of a movie. And then we go and we blow them out 52-20 for the first national title. And I love that Jordan. She's over there doing these numbers, and just unbelievable experience. And part of me looking back, why that to me is more significant. I don't know. Did any of you guys watch the end of the Masters this weekend?
Yeah.
Or see some of the memes of Rory's celebration? I mean, tears, yelling, exuberance, and it's really interesting because in an individual sport you can capture that. If it were a team sport, you'd have a bunch of things going on. You might miss some of those responses. But had he won this tournament 11 years ago, I guarantee you he wouldn't have had that much emotion. But there was so much pressure for 11 years for him to finish the Grand Slam, and so many missed opportunities that when he finally got it, it meant so much to him. And I think had we just been undefeated and won against Florida State and then won the national title, it wouldn't be the same for me, because I think life is so much about you're never undefeated in life. Like, there's always setbacks, there's always challenges, there's health issues. There's so many things that happen that make life hard. And it's how you come back from those that I think is really the important thing. And to see our team come back after a devastating loss, to see the senior leadership rally us into that game to play against Alabama a week later, and then to win the national title in the way we did after losing it all, just to me seems so much more special than it had we just been undefeated.
Yeah, and I think building off of that, you talk about the resiliency, having to go through these challenges from losing the national title the year before against Nebraska to, again, losing against Florida State. As a leader on the team, how do you stay confident? How do you build that team and make sure you have each other's backs to continue and pursue and then go on and win the national title?
I think there's a couple things to it. One is, are you willing to learn from mistakes in life and football? And I think sometimes you learn more when you lose a game. I think you learn more when things go wrong. And one thing we learned, I think, from that Nebraska game was we were overconfident and we were too loose. And people really, I think, weren't really dialed in that week. A bowl week is different because you're gone, you're somewhere else. You're not on your normal schedule, and there's things to do and going out, and it's fun. And so we learn from that. And I think part of life is, do you learn from your mistakes? I think the other thing, though, is emotionally, how do you recover when things are really bad? And that was, it was a tough time after that Florida State game. And the way I remember it, even the coaches were, for a couple of days, really, really down, and actually felt like me and James Bates and Lawrence Wright and some of the senior leaders kind of gathered everyone together and said, look, we have a shot to win the SEC. And there's more football to be played. And let's just do what we can do to get ready. Let's not focus on the emotions, focus on the process. And we did. We were ready to play. We made some adjustments, put in the shotgun. It was kind of the first time we used the shotgun a little bit against Alabama. Beat them, and it all fell into place.
That's awesome. I love that story of resilience and overcoming and how it applies to everyday life. I think that those are lessons that everyone needs to understand. And once you do, everything is so much more productive, in my opinion. So I guess taking a little bit of a turn in general, but being coached by the head ball coach is always an adventure. So do you have a story about Coach Spurrier that still makes you laugh or taught you something that you carry with today?
Yeah, one of my favorite moments now, not at the time, was early on when I threw one of my first interceptions. We were think running what we would call a corner route. So they're going up the field and cutting, and it's pretty difficult to cover in certain zones if the quarterback times his feet, his steps, and throws the ball right before or as the receiver's breaking, because then the defense can't even get there. And so, but he's got to hit the right spot. So in this case, he's going to stem in for 5 yards, up the field for 15, and he's going to break towards the sideline at an angle where he catch the ball from 22 to 24 yards, 2 to 3 yards from the sideline. So it's very specific. So I took my steps, read the defense, made the throw, and when he cut his route, I thought he was a little flat. So the ball went over his head. It was intercepted. So the real question, if anybody knew Coach Spurrier, was who's going to get in trouble, because he was always upset, and he was very famous for slamming his visor on the ground. And so I get to the sideline, and at first I was grateful because he said, "Oh, Danny, don't worry. It's not your fault." I said, "Whew." And then he said, "It's my fault for putting you in there. You're out." So that's one of the Spurrier stories. He kind of tries to act like he didn't say that very much, but if you talk to any of his players, that was a pretty common line. "Yeah, coach, it's not his fault for not knowing what route to run. It's our fault for even putting him in the game."
So you are in no doubt a Gator great. This morning, I actually dropped my friend off to the Heisman statue at 8 a.m. because he was taking graduation photos outside of the stadium. And you're also, a part of you're a member of the Ring of Honor. So tell us a little bit about what being a Gator means to you.
I mean, when I was in high school, I didn't know. My older sister was Florida State. I thought I might be going to Florida State. And like I said, I picked the University of Florida to play for Coach Spurrier and to go to the academic school. But what I really didn't realize is this idea of what it means to be a part of the Gator Nation. And that is something, it's a little bit like joining a forever family, a forever fraternity. It's a really unique thing. So many people all around the world love the University of Florida. You see tags, you see the logo everywhere. And there's just really a sense of caring for one another, whether it's kids coming out of college looking for jobs, if you need support with something. And it's just, and then for some reason, I think more than other schools, perhaps it draws people to want to still be a part of it as they get older, to give back, to support it, whether it's just going to games or supporting it financially or volunteering. My colleague and friend James Gadsby just couldn't stay away from Gainesville, and he loves being around the students and supporting and volunteering. And I think you put all those things together, and you have just an amazing, not just school, but university and network of people that make it up, both there in Gainesville and really around the world.
Sure. I think James Gadsby, we had him on an episode here, but I think I can speak for so many students when I say he's such a mentor to so many people. And I think when you're a Gator once, you're a Gator for life. And I think that's, honestly, I have not seen it with some of my friends that go to other schools. I haven't seen the same level. And people come and visit, they're like, this is an entirely different level of spirit and pride. It goes beyond just school spirit. It's the type of person that you are. So speaking about a little bit more to the college football experience and kind of taking the academics and the typical college, football experience that we've seen for so long, it's changing a lot right now. We're seeing that with NIL, we're seeing with the transfer portal. So if you were playing today, what do you think would be the most exciting or challenging part for you? And do you have advice for these new athletes, these new players that are navigating this?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that is very different that's not super new is social media, versus when I was playing, it was TV, magazines, newspapers, but there's just a block of time before things would come out. And, just any silly thing you do now, if anybody catches it on camera, it's national news. Any silly thing you say. I mean, I say a lot of silly things to be funny, and I'm thankful that a lot of those aren't captured in eternity and spread. So, I think just even comparing like Tim Tebow's experience to my experience is very, very different for him. I'm actually very thankful that I kind of was before that era. Now, the next stuff that you're talking about, the NIL and the transfer portal, is really interesting because I have mixed feelings, because I really feel like, on one hand, as the business has grown and as so many people are making more money, it does make sense for the players to be compensated at some level and in some manner. And I think the NCAA kind of held out so far on that front that it cost them to lose control. And the challenge is now we're in really, I think it's a very unhealthy scenario where you've got people that are being paid, but they don't have contracts. It's not sort of binding both ways. And you've got this weird transfer portal where you don't even have to sit out if you transfer anymore. And, so I hate it. I hate that things happen like they did at Tennessee with the quarterback. I hate that things are happening like that, but it's hard to blame the players or when the system is broken. And so I really feel like, if you had to sit out 1 year in the transfer portal, or if and when they get to where there's contracts that are a little bit binding, then I think it'll be more sustainable and in a better situation. I'm afraid, when you have enough goodwill in something, you can withstand some chinks before it starts to cost you in life. And I think there's something so beautiful about college football. And I really do think if things stayed like it did right now for the next several years, we would not have the same love and appreciation 10 years from now. I think if they get it fixed or better in the next few years, I think we'll go through this like a bump, and everybody will be thrilled and fans for a long time.
Definitely. And
wait, before we move on, the question though was, what advice would I give to the young people? And I think whenever you have an opportunity to recognize your value and get value for what value you bring, I think anybody has the right to try to maximize that. One, I would say, get some really good advisors. Probably not your uncle, probably not your buddy, probably not your parent even. But it's hard. But find somebody that's trustworthy that you can listen to, because you're going to hear a lot of different voices. And I would also say that the grass is usually not greener on the other side of the fence. We just talked about how amazing it is to be a part of the Gator Nation. Well, you got to kind of be a part of the Gator Nation to be a part of the Gator Nation, and to show up and then dip out and go somewhere else, you probably miss out on some of the benefits of being part of a group.
Yeah, I also think our basketball team is a big story of that right now, and just everything that they kind of went through and coming together as a team this year, choosing to play again and get back out there, and it worked out so well for all of them. So I think there is such a benefit to also having that time here and investing not only as an athlete, but also in this amazing opportunity to be in the Gator Nation that we have as a person as well. So definitely great advice for them, and we appreciate you sharing your insights on that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of consistency in terms of coming back and being passionate, with the way Denzel Aberdeen stayed from coming off the bench, but stuck around, wanted to be with this team. Micah Handlogden coming off of his injury, but choosing to be a part of something bigger, a national championship, and Will Richard from the start being Todd Golden's first recruit. So like you're talking about, there's a passion of being a Gator, and to all these athletes kind of sticking around and knowing why you made the decision in the first place, and doing what's best for you and what's best for the team, and seeing where it can go in the long run.
I think that passion also extends so far beyond just athletics. A lot of us in this room have the privilege of giving tours of the university. And I know at the end we have an opportunity to say why UF, why we came, but now a lot of us transition that into why we continue to stay. And many of our answers at least include in some capacity the people themselves, because it's truly inspiring the way that the Gator Nation operates.
For sure.
And I think even if students don't come in necessarily with passion and desires, by the time they graduate, the environment itself facilitates it in every student, I think. So the things that you're saying are completely, I see it in everyday students as well. So it's really inspiring to see that that's so transferable in every single capacity here.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. Also, can you tell that Adam is our token sports fan over here? He does everything. So for sure. Rob, you want to take off?
Yeah. So sorry, I had to clear my throat a little bit. Now kind of transitioning onto a little bit of your professional experience and your later career. You've celebrated such a great and amazing athletic career, but now you've reinvented yourself as an entrepreneur and, more importantly, as a philanthropist. So what led you to turn your platform towards service and philanthropy, and how did you know that was the exact direction that you wanted to take?
I don't know when I was pretty certain that my professional career kind of post football would be in philanthropy and nonprofit. I had a lot of different ideas and thoughts. And honestly, if I had 5 lives to live, there's a lot of things I would do. I think I would love to coach. I'd love to do some business. I'd love to do there's a lot of things that I think would be intriguing to me. I got to fly a F-15 and a F-16 early on after college, and part of me would have loved to have been a fighter pilot. The Top Gun movie comes out, and I'm like, man, I missed my window.
How was
Um,
that? Was that amazing?
yes. So oh yeah, it's even hard to describe the amount of acceleration and maneuverability at high speeds that to experience in a fighter jet. But just for me, it really came down to if I had 5 lives, I'd do a lot of things. But as a Christian, you have one life to live, and as a Christian, I think it's one life to give. So you kind of really think about where does this make sense? And I didn't make a decision. I was drafted by New Orleans, so I went there. And while I was there, I just happened to run into a young ministry called Desire Street that was working in one of the roughest neighborhoods in the country. And I just started volunteering, and my heart was broken. When I would think of poverty, I would usually think of something in a third world country or across the ocean. And then yet, not far from the Superdome where we won the national title, there's just so many people and kids that just didn't have the same opportunities that I had when I was young, and so many odds stacked against them. And the valedictorian at the public high school there usually didn't pass the ACT. And yet it's a brilliant, wonderful, gifted students just didn't quite have the support and the resources. So I just volunteered for several years and was very passionate about that. And when I retired from the NFL, it just made sense to go there and help. And didn't know Hurricane Katrina was coming, and it kind of washed us all out, and a lot of things changed. And during that time, I became the director kind of in an interim way, and then was asked to lead forward. And now we moved our headquarters to Atlanta. And Desire Street, what we do is we partner with leaders that have already started nonprofits in under-resourced neighborhoods, and we support the leader and their organization for 5 years to try to develop their infrastructure, their leadership, so that they can be thriving and sustainable in what they do. And so a lot of them are doing a lot of work with kids. We've got a couple medical clinics. We've got a couple schools. We've got some that are churches, some that are doing housing. So a lot of different type of work in their neighborhoods. But the key, is having a great leader that can really maximize the effectiveness of the organization. And so, I remember that day I just finally realized this is what I want to do. And I told my wife, and she was all on board. She's amazing, and so it's been quite a journey. Like a lot of things in life, there's been many times where I'm like, why am I doing this? This is so hard, and things don't always work out. And you invest in people, and it doesn't go the way you want. And it's when the economy changes, it's hard to raise money and get things done. But when I go to bed, I feel really grateful that I was a part of something that I think really made a difference.
And I feel like that also just speaks to life in general, of having that plan. And sometimes it doesn't go to plan. And maybe, you get this opportunity that kind of falls into your path. And that can take you on this completely new, exciting adventure that you weren't even planning before. And I think that just, says to, of course, plan, but also to trust where your life's taking you, and the decisions you're making today can lead you to opportunities, and having, that one life, but having opportunities that maybe span multiple lifetimes. Your philanthropy, your ability to be so advanced in athletics, and be such a figure to so many people, and be someone who's such an inspiration. So I think just being able to be multifaceted like that, and understanding that everyone can be, you don't have to have one passion. It has to take you one way. You can do something here at the university, take a different path, and maybe that career, that first job, leads you to an opportunity that you had no idea about. I think that definitely just speaks to that. I think it will resonate with a lot of our audience as well. I know that as a student, it's one of my biggest things is thinking, what am I doing next? And knowing that while you could have this great next stop, you could have something that you find is passionate and new and exciting, and just being able to rely on that, and maybe not knowing that it's right, but still just trusting your gut and seeing where it takes you, for sure.
And I just wanted to kind of add on to that. I'm ecstatic and inspired by, the initiative that you had to create Desire or to work with Desire Street Ministries and kind of drive it to the place that it is now. And it speaks volumes to not only your character, but also Mr. Gadsby and everybody that works with the foundation itself. I always see whenever I go through the street in Gainesville, there's a stark contrast between all the resources that we have here on campus and the homelessness that might be in the outstanding areas and the greater Gainesville community. So definitely really appreciate all the work that you're doing. And, I'm just excited to see how, us as students and all of our college listeners can get involved within their communities.
And with that, I know you kind of touched on this a little bit in your last answer, but we would love to just get a little bit more information. You've given back in so many ways with so many incredibly impactful projects. So can you describe what your vision originally was for that giving back that you spoke about and how your projects like your foundation or Desire Street are tangibly showcasing that vision that you had?
Yeah, I mean, I think the simpler version, even going back to being a kid, was, this your life's not about you and how can you help other people. My dad really loves the word stewardship, this idea that we don't sort of own everything that's ours. We're kind of stewarding things and how do we steward things for the better of more people than just ourselves. And so I think that was sort of deep in there. And I just got connected with Desire Street early and kind of even back to what we said, the University of Florida is not just a school, it's about the people. And I just kind of fell in love with the people around Desire Street and just met some amazing friends that just, some of them just had so many obstacles and odds against them, and yet we're just doing amazing things that it wasn't like, oh, here comes Danny to help or save these people. It was like, man, there's amazing people, but they just didn't have the same opportunities. And how can we work together to make those available? I think so. I kind of just took the best next step. I honestly felt very unqualified to become the executive director. We were running a school that was a boarding school at the time, and how am I supposed to be ahead of a school? So I felt very, humbled and just was really trying to learn and grow and do the best I could. And then I think as time went, we were able to kind of clarify our vision and have more focus, and we were able to bring in people like James Gadsby that really helped make things more efficient. And then that got to the point where I was like, this is amazing what we're doing at Desire Street, but I keep getting these opportunities that are a little bit different. I really want to maximize to steward my platform as a Heisman winner and a football player and impact the most. And as we thought through that, that's where the Wuerffel Foundation was birthed a few years ago, and this idea of inspiring more service and inspiring more unity in the world. And so out of that, we do a couple things. We support several other nonprofits that aren't necessarily under-resourced. So, we've been able to help like Leanne Wong set up her foundation and also do some work, with Graham Mertz and help him kind of get his going and just, a lot of them tend to be former athletes that we just sort of advise and help. And there's a lot of people that are trying to figure out nonprofit space that just don't have experience. So I've been able to be a resource for a lot of people. And then one of the really cool things is we have now taken the Wuerffel Trophy, which is a award for community service, and really help push that forward. And we've partnered with Allstate now as our presenting sponsor, and we had 111 nominees last year. So that's 111 stories of college football players that are doing tremendous community service. We tell their stories all around the country. And then, of course, we highlight the Good Works team, which is our semifinalists, and then our finalists are the last three, and then really promote our winner. But the whole point of doing it is so that other people see this and they're inspired and they can do more. We all can do a little bit more. And so that's been very, very rewarding for me, both the work at Desire Street and the work at the Wuerffel Foundation.
Awesome, for sure. In 2020, you were recognized with the Humanitarian of the Year award. What went into this, and what did that honor mean to you personally? I mean, you just touched on so many different things, and I also think it's very unique and cool that we're starting to see the intersection of athletes having these nonprofits, having these foundations, giving back. It shows that the two can really go hand in hand. So this honor, I'm sure, just was the amalgamation of everything that you've done and was able to be kind of an honor. So, and what did that mean to you personally?
Well, I mean, I love and I'm grateful as a competitor that, if we win, we get a trophy, or if I win something, I might get a trophy, or, I'm playing a lot of pickleball now and you get these little medals and you're like, those are great. And for a lot of my life, people would see me, out on the street somewhere and they just be such big football fans and they'd, oh, come meet, this is Danny Wuerffel. He won the Heisman and the national championship. But now it's really cool because often it's like, hey man, we loved watching you play football, but we really like what you're doing now. It's really inspiring to us. And so like to kind of be known for that is great. I love that. I gotta through it all try to do the things I need to do to stay humble and not get too full of my own self, whether it's on the football field or doing good work. It's interesting. You can do nonprofit, you can help other people and still make it all about you. Like you can still in your heart and somehow, and it is weird to try to be humble and then have an award named after you. And how do you make sense of that?
Yeah.
But I think to me, I'm proud, hopefully in the right ways, of what we've done. And especially if it's inspiring people to do more, to care for other people. And I think that the next challenge for me is to realize how can I leverage all these things that I've been blessed with to focus on that unity piece. Like how can we be very different and still get along? And we're living in a world, especially online world, where man, it's red and blue. And it's like you're either this or you're that, and there's no middle ground. There's no willingness to engage. Certainly you don't ever critique your own team, which I think we need to. And so how can we still foster, we're all in this together. We're all on the same planet. We're all human beings. We have more in common than we have apart. And how, so that's a new challenge, I think, to be thinking through in the years to come.
For sure. I think that even you touching on like the division of the world right now and the state that we're currently in is so important. I think also the critiquing your own team, being able to kind of look inward at the same time is important. And I think that's what we're hoping to do here and, kind of just spread the message that we have a bunch of different guests on and everyone tells their stories, and being able to understand people as individuals and not just collective thought is so important. So I also appreciate you touching on that. And I think it's very important to our audience to hear. And also that I like the part where you talked about being humble, but also having your name as an award. And I think having yourself as this big figure and influential person, being able to use your voice as an amplifying measure to other people's voices, I think is so important. And I think you do a great job of doing that. So just giving your flowers where they're due. Thank you for everything that you've been doing in the service industry and being able to help so many people. And so we just appreciate it as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I feel like I live in a weird world. I like half the people I spend life with tend to be really wealthy, almost always quite conservative and often white. And then I spend a lot of time in neighborhoods where people tend to be not as conservative, very, very diverse, usually African American, often poor, and just to be a bridge in between two like really weird worlds has been a wonderful thing for me. And to try to just encourage everybody on at least the different ends of those spectrums. And there's lots of other groups and ways that dynamics happen, but just those are the two that I tend to live in. And it's been sad and sometimes incredibly encouraging when you see people experience life differently and meet people that they wouldn't normally meet and develop friendships. And so that's been part of the joy as well.
I also think the University of Florida is a place we were able to do that in an unparalleled way. We talked about this on one of our other episodes. I feel like we touch on it every single time. But this is a place where you can really step in other people's shoes. And even I think University of Florida and Florida schools in general give an opportunity for many more people to attend college than they would be able to because of the scholarships, because of those opportunities. And I think that is such an important thing that we can take advantage of here in university and then beyond and carry that with us, carrying it through the Gator spirit for sure.
Yeah, and I think building off of that, you talked a lot about the platform that these athletes currently have, whether it's social media or like just people in general. And a lot of, sorry, I'm going to redo that. You talked a lot about the platform that people have now, especially athletes within social media and the action that people can take on campus as well. I know a lot of college students are eager to make a difference in the world and contribute to change, but a lot of times they don't know where to start. So what's one small step that people can take to really impact the communities around us and take an active role in what's going on in our world?
A couple things. I mean, I think one is at a younger age, there may be of some things that have happened in your life or in the life of people's loved ones that touched your heart. You may have, known someone that went through a tragedy with cancer or somebody that went through something. You may have, you never know, and so you may already have like a cause that's already a little close to your heart. I think if not, then you're wide open to sort of look around and think and discover. But to me, the true joys happen when you find something that somehow is close to your heart. And then secondly, um, every one of us and every one of you is unique and you have unique skills. And if what happens a lot is like, you may have somebody I'm just gonna make this up, an accountant who loves numbers and who's very introverted and thinks he's going to have to go play with young kids all day if he's going to volunteer. Like he's probably not good at that, or she's probably not good at that. But that same place where they're working with kids, they need help in their accounting, or it could be that you're a lawyer. Well, that same organization may need some legal help. You may have a great skill as a musician. Well, go teach some kids how to play the piano or the guitar, or you may be able to paint. Like find out what you're good at, find out where there's a need, and if you mix those together, you'll have the most rewarding experience and it'll be the most helpful for the group. And thirdly, I would say when you're young, a lot of times it's like immediately you think, I need to go start something. Whereas I think it's probably better to go find someone who's doing it and help them for a while. And then if it makes sense for you to start your own thing, you can do that. So just sort of, I think, support somebody or a group that's doing it, find something close to your heart. And especially if you can figure out a way to use your particular talents there, that could be great.
I really like that idea of finding something for yourself that makes you excited. I think that's a concept that a lot of students are exploring in college. I know when I give tours, I talk to a lot of high school students that are scared because they don't know what they want to do. And we always just advise them to take a step back and find something they're passionate about. So again, I think that's such transferable advice to absolutely everyone. But transitioning a little bit as we wrap up, we'd love to talk to you a little bit about the future. So with so many chapters in your journey, how do you stay true to your purpose while continuing to evolve and grow?
Well, I think on the Desire Street side, we're going to learn from the last 5 years. We just finished a 5-year strategic plan, and now we're working on the next 5. So we're excited about that. I think the Wuerffel Foundation is how do we keep doing the things that we're doing well, but also I think incorporate some ideas around this idea of unity. I think we've done a lot of really good on the service side of inspiring service. We're exploring things like a podcast ourselves, so I might be calling y'all to get some advice on that as you're the experts. And so we're looking at some things like that. I think also, I'm moving into my 50s and sort of, a lot of my time, the more time I can be giving back to other people that are trying to do things, I think the more I can do there versus necessarily doing all the minutia of running our organization. So kind of finding other people to take some of the burden of roles that I've been doing. And then I think lastly for me is I have stumbled into now my new favorite sport ever. I mentioned pickleball. And by turning 50, it makes playing at the highest level a little easier because it's a little bit like golf. There's pro golf and then there's senior pro golf, or there's same in pickleball. There's like super amazing 24-year-old kids that I'll never beat that are the pros. But then there's senior pro when you turn 50, and I can play there. So I'm play on a senior pro team, the Denver Iconics. I'm playing in the U.S. Open in a couple weeks, and just absolutely love pickleball, love the relationships, and I've met a lot of new donors through pickleball. And the foundation now has started doing Celebrity Pro-Am pickleball fundraisers, which has been great. So it's just a little great addition in my life at this point.
How did you get into pickleball? I don't know if I missed that. How did you just like pick up, you're like, oh, this sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine, another former Gator, a really great guy, was the first kind of time I hit some balls with him. And then when COVID happened, my oldest son, Jonah, who actually is at Florida, I mentioned, he's part of the pickleball club there. He's the treasurer of the UF Pickleball Club, very good player. He and I, there just wasn't much you could do. So we went to the park and we played pickleball, and then we both kind of got into it.
I've definitely seen pickleball increase in a lot of the participation, and I think it's a
Yeah.
big part of the Gator Nation at this
been
point in the
boom-
Gators.
Yeah, it's exploding. And you may or may not know the Florida Gator club team won one of the national tournaments a week ago. There's a couple different groups that have national tournaments. So UF is winning national titles in all the sports, baby.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love pickleball. Just a little personal thing. And we just built a bunch of them back home. I went home and they were built like pickleball things in place of where tennis courts were. And I was
Yeah.
like, is this really? But it's becoming the
It's
new.
happening.
They're
Everyone
expanding
can do
it
it.
here as well, yeah, because it's always been a struggle. You go to Southwest or Flavitt Field and
Yeah.
you wait an hour for a court. So now they have a plan to expand Flavitt Field and make that a whole complex. And so the sport's been growing, and like you're showing, the impact that you can make alongside it grows with it. And so there's a great partnership there, and continuing to learn and pursue new opportunities for sure.
So, kind of with a lot of what you've said in mind, especially when you talked about interacting with different people from a diverse background and environments, how do you balance those professional responsibilities, but also your personal passions? And, what keeps you grounded in interacting with people and helping them through your community involvement?
One of the things that has become kind of core for my life is call it a lot of different things, but it's sort of a morning reset. I would call it, centering prayer. Some would call it mindfulness, but like I'll usually get on our porch and try to be sitting there for almost an hour, 30 minutes to an hour every day without anything to do, trying to just even let go of all my thoughts, which is hard, and just being super present and empty. And then, after that, I might do some more specific prayers or read a few passages to kind of really absorb them. And that for me has been one of the greatest reset practices that I have. I think it gets me more centered. It gets me closer to sort of a deeper part of myself, sort of the more, I think no matter how old you are, there's like a little whiny sixth grader that lives inside of you, and there's an angry eighth grader, and like we've got all these different parts to ourselves that often will flare up. And for me, the more I get to be still and alone and don't have anybody to impress or anything to say or think, and I just get grounded, and then I'm much more, I think, authentic in my connections to people each day. I don't get wrapped up in things as much as when I don't get to do that. And there's other things that I do as well, but I think that's one of the practices that's been super, super important for me.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm going to try to do all your career justice because you touch on so many different areas. I think that you are such an example of pulling the different interests that you have, being able to have so many different passions and kind of weaving them together to make this story, to make this full, complete picture, and still, adding a tree here or there, adding a new thing to your picture as you go. I think that is just an example. I mean, your athletic experience to then entering service and impacting your community, and even including pickleball, one of your hobbies, to be new and creative, and also learning, you're talking about social media, advancing to a podcast. I think that you are just an example again of being able to fluctuate and change as life goes and kind of adapt to how the new current world is working, but also staying true to who you are and building that brand image, building the image of who you are, and just writing your story in general. So if you could write, speaking of writing, if you could write a letter to your college-aged self, if you were sitting on here, our sixth person on the podcast, and you were talking, right, back in our day, what advice would you give to yourself?
I think I would say, strive for all the things you want. Working hard is obviously like super important, but also like you're okay. Like you don't, whether you win or whether you don't win, you're still okay. You are solid, you are loved, you are good, regardless of your performance, and just sort of rest in that more. I'd say don't worry as much about what people think. I think that was something that I wrestled with a lot, and then the list could go on, but I think those would be a few good things.
Awesome. So incredible. Do you see a little bit of that, do you see a little bit of yourself in your son right now when he's going through this experience at the University of Florida as well? Do you see a little bit of you as a younger person in him? Yeah, some parallels.
Yeah, there's definitely some parallels, but he's also a very unique, different person. All three of my kids are very, very different. I'm like, didn't you all grow up in the same home?
Yeah.
But they're like so very different. And so just sort of trying to try to instill some consistent values, but also give enough flexibility for people to become who they are. And I'm just so proud of Jonah. When he got to Florida, it was hard. After his first semester, he wasn't sure he wanted to stay. And then now he's just crushing it. He got a scholarship through this last year, got honored. He's been on the dean's list the last 2 years. He's probably going to graduate early, and he just grew up a lot. It's like I talked to him the other day. I'm like, who is this young man? This is like not the same kid I dropped off a few years ago, and so just really, really proud of him.
Yeah, I think this episode in entirety is filled with lots of different lessons between finding your own path, but also learning from others and taking action. And so we'll leave the wrap up a little up to you. We'd love to hear what's next for you within your organizations and just any closing words or advice that you have.
Well, I think as I mentioned, we're trying to the new 5-year plan with Desire Street and working on kind of developing unity, might do a podcast, and hopefully a few more pickleball medals. So that's hopefully all part of my future. I think I would just wrap it up. Life is a team sport. You can do a lot by yourself, but the reality is you can only go so far by yourself. We talked about part of what makes the Gator Nation special is it's more than a school. It's about people. What part of made our football team special in '96 was the people. One of the reasons I'm loving pickleball, I'm on a team pickleball sport because it's better for me than an individual thing. And so I think just this idea of being part of a team, and part of that, I would say, make sure you have some people in your life that you're sharing your struggles with. You don't want to be a lone ranger when it comes to difficult times. You want to be part of a team. You want to have people that know you, that can be there for you when you need it, that you can be there for them when they need it. And if you don't feel like you have those relationships right now, make that a goal and a priority, and try to move towards that direction. Life's a team sport.
100%. Incredible.
Well, thank you so much. This has been an incredible episode. That's all from us. But thank you for having your time and just giving us your time this morning.
Yes.
This is, again, I say, bucket list.
Yeah,
And
dream come true for me.
I mean, I don't even know how to close out that episode. It's such an incredible opportunity that we've had today to talk with him and someone that's such an incredible Gator. I mean, there's literally, you walk 5 feet outside of this building and there's a statue of him, which is super cool. You gotta do the little pose if you're ever here in Gainesville. But I mean, what an incredible episode. We talked about, I feel like, everything. I mean, Adam, I'm sure this one would be probably one of your favorite episodes.
Yeah, this was definitely a big one for me. And growing up, I wasn't alive for that 96 season, but
Right.
growing up, watching his highlights, and then hearing about how he used his platform and turned it into such a great mission with all of his philanthropic involvements, it's just such an inspirational story.
Yeah.
How you go from playing football to being so involved in your community and really
For
giving
sure.
back. I mean, this was, yeah, one of my favorite people to talk to that we've ever had on, for sure.
And you really see those leadership traits kind of carry over, I
Yeah.
think, from
Oh, yeah.
whether it be the football field to real life. It was just amazing to see those connections and those parallels.
I thought it was crazy that the box itself was cheering him on. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I know.
All the little crazy shout outs from the box.
Yeah, if you guys notice that, there's a little sound box that's underneath our feet at all times. We hide it so that it looks more aesthetic and pretty for you guys. But depending on where we were, we just kind of kept kicking it. So sorry to the box. And, you know, if you guys hear a little bit of crickets or
Some sound effects.
some sound effects in the back, it just adds to the audio experience. So
Yeah.
super excited. But with that,
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in.
thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.
ChompCast out.